WWE Survivor Series War Games is on November 25th, 2023, going from the All-State Arena in Chicago. Going to give the match card predictions today, but this will be slightly different, this PLE, to previous ones, because WWE kind of have given some of the matches already. We know 2 matches for sure already going to be on Survivor Series. A third was kind of teased on Monday Night Raw, but has not been put as a graphic currently on WWE.com, so we're discussing that as well. I think there'll be 2 further matches added to this show, so without further ado, I'll go into speculation station towards the end of the video. Let's get straight into it, and let's talk about the first War Games match of the evening. We've got Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and the World Heavyweight Champion Seth Freakin Rollins taking on the Judgment Day. Of course, there'll be Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dirty Dominik Mysterio, and JD McDonagh. That has been announced up to this point. It is the worst kept secret in WWE, has been building for months. All these guys that have been on the babyface side have been rivaling with the Judgment Day, and of course it makes sense to, well, Survivor Series conclude this, whether it was 4-on-4 or potentially what could end up being a 5-on-5. If you have seen WWE's advertisement trailer, if you will, for War Games, Corey Graves does say 10 men, not 8. So are we missing someone on each side? This is somewhere we can speculate early because, well, many have suggested perhaps Pepsi Phil may be coming back to WWE in Chicago. Randy Orton has been a heavy tease as well, along with CM Punk. And of course, there are some, well, superstars that could naturally fit the build that could easily go into War Games with the 2 sides. Looking on the babyface side, if you look, for example, from SmackDown, Kevin Owens was a big part of this storyline before being traded. He could be brought onto this War Games team for one night only to be a part with his friends on the Raw side. Potentially LA Knight could be someone that could be thrown into this as well, and maybe, just maybe, Drew McIntyre could be someone that could fit in as well in the tweener role. Not quite gone heel yet, but there is also a counter argument that Drew McIntyre could be on the heel side as well. What if Drew McIntyre wants to do things for himself? He's listened to Rhea Ripley and he joins the Judgment Day inside War Games. Would not rule that one out. Potentially Jimmy Uso could be another one that could be thrown in there. Of course, he is the reason that the Judgment Day currently hold the tag team championships, which would make sense then for Kevin Owens, for example, to be involved in this, and also LA Knight, who is looking for revenge on Jimmy Uso after being cost the, of course, undisputed WWE Universal Championship against Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. Whatever's going to happen, it's going to be a barn burner with this War Games match, and for me, if I had to predict at this early stage, it depends if there are other members going to be added to the side before I can give a full prediction and result. Looking at what we've got right now, I'd have to go with the babyfaces to pick up the win. Cody, of course, to get the momentum, start his journey to finish the story at WrestleMania. Seth Rollins potentially can put the Judgment Day for the time being in the rearview mirror. He'll never fully do it while Damian Priest has that money in the bank. Of course, as well, the likes of Sami Zayn has been feuding for about 6 months with the Judgment Day. It needs to stop now, and of course with Jey Uso has been the same as well. So it needs to stop. We need to move on. This needs a conclusion at Survivor Series. So right now it makes sense for the baby faces unless there are extra ingredients added to the match. Speaking of the Judgment Day, we know Rhea Ripley will be defending her World's Women's Championship against Zoey Stark. Zoey Stark, of course, was one of the 5 women in the Crown Jewel Championship match. Of course, was on the losing end. Wasn't pinned though, but did suffer an avalanche from the second rope from Rhea Ripley in the closing stages of the match, which led to Baszler being pinned. But of course, Zoey Stark did hit her finisher on Rhea Ripley, and of course, that match potentially could have been finished at that point. Rhea Ripley sold it like an absolute hero in that match, but of course, as being a fatal 5-way, we didn't get an actual pinfall. Zoey Stark did win a battle royale to get this opportunity, so it's going to be great to see this match here play out Survivor Series. I do think Zoey Stark was the MVP of the match in Crown Jewel, so I think she'll have a good performance here. Another potential star-making moment, but I think Rhea Ripley will retain, of course. The big question I have is, of course, she turned on Trish Stratus. Surely there'll be a receipt coming at some point. No better time for a Trish return than during Zoey's championship opportunity. So the other match we can expect at Survivor Series War Games at this moment is Gunther to defend the IC title. Now, of course, if you looked on Raw, there was a number 1 contenders match to determine that position. The Miz won that. Of course, there was a bit of confusion because Ivar had a pin on Ricochet. Of course, now we can go into behind the curtain. Was Ricochet meant to kick out? I'm not sure. There was some speculation on that, but the Miz did win the match. Ivar did attack Miz after the match, match. There were rumors we were going to get Gunther versus Ivar, although a program has been building with Gunther versus The Miz. So expect, well, an IC title match in some variation, whether it's Gunther versus The Miz, whether it's against a triple threat match with Ivar as well. It should be a fun time. Gunther is involved after all. I would expect Gunther to retain, and it seems like a good sort of place match to have in the middle of the card in between these two War Games matches that we'll probably get on the show, which one would expect would probably take about 45 minutes to an hour each on the show. So let's speculate the rest of the card. I'm going to actually predict that AJ Styles will return to SmackDown this upcoming Friday. Of course, he was taken out by Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. Providing that neither of them are added to the men's War Games match, I can see a tag team encounter, LA Knight and AJ Styles going against Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso, and I think that AJ Styles and LA Knight will get their revenge of what's been going on by pinning Jimmy Uso. You have Jimmy right there. There's still enough time to build him up between now and WrestleMania for the match against Jay. Solo, after the annihilation of John Cena at Crown Jewel, should not be eating a pinfall, but he could still be on a losing effort of a tag team, and that probably shouldn't do him too much harm. AJ Styles, of course, then can move on to try and get a match against Roman Reigns, potentially at Royal Rumble. LA Knight will eventually then have his revenge from being cost his opportunity at Crown Jewel. Last but not least, then let's talk about the Women's War Games match. Of course, Monday Night Raw seems to have the men's, so I think SmackDown will host the Women's War Games match. I'm going to go for 5-on-5, although this could easily be 4-on-4. And I'm going to look at the heel side right now. Obviously, Damage Control seems like the obvious route to put inside this cage structure. Of course, you have Bayley, you have Io Sky, of course, is the current SmackDown Women's Champion. Although Dakota Kai still injured at this moment, so I imagine she will not be in the cage structure. Of course, I could be wrong with that. We have a returning Kairi Sane. Of course, Kairi Sane and Bayley will have a lot of history together. Of course, Bayley wrote Kairi Sane out of WWE. So at the moment, I would say though they could sort of tease this storyline of a future breakup but not actually do it straight away. So I think they'll be on the same side going into War Games here. And to finish off, I think we need a team. I've seen online a lot of people speculating the idea of Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn. As much as I like that, I think we could actually borrow a team from Monday Night Raw that have the ability to go to SmackDown anyway, and that is the current Women's Tag Team Champions. I think Chelsea Green and Piper Niven would be great for War Games. Obviously, Piper Niven is the powerhouse. They'll be a real asset to a team. And also Chelsea Green, just being Chelsea, big mouth going in there, thinks she can get the job done. Of course, being cowardly when she gets in, the character work could make it a real fun time seeing her in War Games. Going though onto the babyface side, I think a lot of it writes itself, obviously, with Io Sky and how Damage Control have been going against the likes of Asuka, Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair since SummerSlam. Io has put all three of them away now in singles competition, and I think as well you can add Shotzi to the mix, who's also had problems with Bayley. Of course, Shotzi has been teamed with Charlotte Flair, I think a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown as well, so that makes perfect sense. And then, well, you need a fifth person. I think looking at the SmackDown women's roster, you've got the likes of Michin that's there, and of course you've got Zelina Vega as well. I will go with Zelina Vega purely because obviously the high flying ability that she adds to it could be quite fun for War Games. Plus, she has had issues with Damage Control on weekly episodes of SmackDown, although it's kind of been forgotten about in recent times, but you could easily revisit that because she's lost against Io Sky thanks to Bayley's help, and also vice versa. So that would be my predictions there for the Women's War Games match. As for a victor, I would go with the heel side. I think the Damage Control team would pick up the victory, and my reasoning for it is I think Asuka will turn on the babyface team and align herself with Io Sky and also Kairi Sane. So what would that mean for Bayley going forward after that? That will add even more question marks. It could be a case that this faction that we've got takes over and breaks things up from Damage Control after War Games. They got what they needed out of the steel cage, and then afterwards they can push forward as a trio moving forward, moving Bayley to the wayside, and Bayley perhaps maybe then becoming the babyface in the situation, having to get chummy and friendly with the likes of Charlotte and Bianca. And hopefully Dakota Kai would not be far away from a return as well, so that could really help Bayley in that situation. Of course, then you can have Bayley and Dakota Kai simply as a tag team. Of course, then you can see with the new trio that you have with Io as the champion, you can perhaps have Asuka and Kairi Sane as a tag team as well. It all of a sudden makes sense to have the women's tag team champions in War Games, because those titles could become vulnerable because they could have new teams that could be going after them. But anyway, that's my predictions there for the rest of the match card for Survivor Series. You know, a couple of matches that have been announced already. What matches do you want to see at Survivor Series at this point with fantasy booking and speculation on results? How do you see it all playing out? Let me know. Do you see CM Punk or Randy Orton turning up as well in the comments below? I'll be fascinated to see if you think we've got big returns on the way in Chicago. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. Check out the videos on the side of your screen right now. I'll see you for the next upload here on YouTube. And make sure to stick around as well on the channel because plenty of Survivor Series content will be on the way, including predictions on the week of the show along with a review. Take care. Thanks for watching.